The word hung heavy in the air around Malik Johnson, a brand seared onto him by teachers, classmates, even the principal. Stupid. They whispered it behind cupped hands, laughed openly when he stumbled over a word, sighed with theatrical impatience when he needed a moment longer to think. They slapped labels on him: slow, special needs, problem child, thinking him too dense to grasp the crushing weight of their dismissal. But Malik understood. Oh, he understood everything. He felt the sting of every snide remark, the heat of every condescending eye roll, the cold finality in the voice of Mr. Carter, the high and mighty principal who prided himself on separating the wheat from the chaff. To Mr. Carter, Malik was chaff, a useless burden, a waste of precious school resources. When Malik's mother, her voice thick with worry, pleaded for tutoring for any chance at all, Carter had patted her shoulder with pitying condescension. "Ma'am," he'd said, his tone dripping with false sympathy, "sometimes you just have to accept that not every bird was born to fly." What they didn't know, what they couldn't comprehend, was that Malik was flying. Just in realms they couldn't see. While others lost themselves in video games or fleeting social media trends, Malik was in the junkyard, his fingers deftly maneuvering through the guts of broken radios, coaxing life back into discarded circuits. While teachers marked him down for not showing his work, his mind blazed through complex equations, too fast and fluid for their rigid boxes. School was a cage. His true classroom was the quiet solitude of his small room at night. There, surrounded by scavenged parts and fueled by the day's pain, he built things, intricate little machines, ingenious gadgets born not of instruction, but of an innate, restless brilliance. He wasn't just trying to escape their label. He dreamed of shattering it so completely that no one would ever dare diminish another child that way again. Then came the flyer, shimmering with promise, the annual science fair. Grand prize, a full-ride scholarship to a prestigious STEM summer camp. It was more than an opportunity, it felt like destiny calling. A spark ignited in Malik's chest, a flicker of hope he hadn't dared feel before. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance. He found Mr. Carter in the hallway, the entry form clutched in his hand like a fragile key. "I want to enter the science fair, sir." Carter's laughter was a harsh, ugly sound that bounced off the lockers. "You?" he sneered, disbelief warring with amusement. "Malik, do yourself a favor. Save yourself the embarrassment. Leave this one to the real students." The words were a physical blow, but years of silent endurance had forged a quiet strength in Malik. He simply nodded, took the form anyway, and tucked it deep into his backpack. It was a secret promise he would guard fiercely. For weeks, Malik worked in clandestine intensity. Using scrap metal, discarded batteries, and a worn-out soldering iron resurrected from a garage sale, he poured his frustration, his hope, his very essence into his creation. It wasn't just wires and plastic, it was a portable water purifier, ingeniously designed to bring clean drinking water to communities drowning in poverty, using cheap, accessible materials. It was a lifeline. It was his soul made manifest. But the shadow of Mr. Carter loomed large. Days before the fair, Malik overheard the principal boasting to teachers in the lounge, his voice loud enough to carry. "Don't worry," Carter chuckled confidently. "We've got our winners picked out already. Malik can show up if he wants to, but he's not going anywhere." The fix was in. The gymnasium buzzed with nervous energy on the day of the fair. Malik stood beside his humble folding table, his handwritten poster a stark contrast to the glossy, expensive displays surrounding him, projects bankrolled by parents with deep pockets and connections. He felt small, exposed. In the corner, Mr. Carter stood with arms crossed, a smug smirk playing on his lips, clearly anticipating Malik's final public failure. When the judges, a panel of serious-looking scientists and tech entrepreneurs, finally arrived at his booth, Malik took a deep, steadying breath. Ignoring the sweat prickling his back and the knot tightening in his stomach, he began. He demonstrated how his device could transform murky, contaminated water into crystal-clear, safe drinking water within minutes. He explained the simplicity of its construction, the affordability of its parts. Initially, their faces held polite skepticism. But as the purifier hummed to life, as the clean water flowed, their eyebrows shot up. They leaned in closer, their professional detachment melting away, replaced by genuine curiosity. Questions came faster, sharper, tinged with excitement. "You built this yourself?" one judge asked, his voice laced with disbelief. "From scrap parts? Where did you learn these principles?" Malik met his gaze, his voice quiet but firm. "I taught myself." The judges huddled, whispering urgently, their pens scratching furiously on clipboards. Malik watched Mr. Carter's smirk begin to wobble, replaced by a flicker of confusion, then dawning unease. The air crackled with anticipation. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Finally, the head judge stepped to the microphone, his voice silencing the gym. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, "we have witnessed incredible innovation today. Truly inspiring work. But one project stood out. Not just for its technical ingenuity, but for its profound potential to change lives, to address a critical global need. The winner of this year's science fair and the recipient of the summer scholarship is Malik Johnson." Silence. A stunned, absolute silence fell over the gymnasium. Malik stood frozen, the words echoing in the cavernous space, not quite daring to believe. Then applause erupted, a hesitant ripple at first, quickly swelling into a tidal wave of sound. Classmates stared, wide-eyed, their previous assumptions shattering. Mr. Carter's face contorted, flushing a dangerous shade of red, his expression a mixture of fury and disbelief. As Malik walked towards the stage, head held high, his steps steady, he locked eyes with the principal. For the first time, it wasn't Malik who looked small and insignificant. It was Carter. The win wasn't just a trophy, it was a key unlocking doors Malik hadn't even known existed. After the ceremony, the head judge, his eyes gleaming with excitement, pulled Malik aside. "There's someone you need to meet," he said, leading him towards a tall, impeccably dressed man radiating quiet authority. "Malik, this is Dr. Benjamin Rhodes," the judge introduced. Dr. Rhodes, founder of a major tech company focused on sustainable solutions, extended a hand. His smile was warm, genuine. He spoke of his own upbringing in a neglected neighborhood, of facing similar dismissals and prejudices. He saw, he said, a familiar spark in Malik's raw, untamed brilliance. He offered not just the summer program spot, but a full mentorship, pathways to college scholarships, future internships. A future so bright it felt blinding. News of Malik's Underdog victory, coupled with whispers of Carter's prior dismissal, reached the school board. An investigation was launched. Suddenly, stories poured out, other students written off, other dreams stifled by Carter's biased judgment. Angry parents demanded accountability. Within weeks, Mr. Carter was suspended, his career hanging by a thread, the edifice of his authority crumbling. Malik's world transformed. Reporters called, TV crews appeared, scholarship offers materialized. Yet, amidst the whirlwind, Malik remained grounded, the memory of lonely nights and tear-soaked pillows still sharp. He vowed this success wouldn't be just for him, it would be for every kid ever told they weren't enough. But just as relief began to settle in, just as the future seemed clear and bright, a shadow fell. Late one night, working on a new idea in the makeshift lab he'd set up in his garage, an email arrived. No sender. Subject line, "Stop." Attached was a single grainy photo. His award-winning water purifier, smashed violently, lying in a puddle of dirty water. A cold dread washed over Malik. This wasn't Mr. Carter's petty cruelty. This was different. Darker. He showed the email to Dr. Rhodes the next morning. The mentor's face hardened, his eyes narrowing. "Malik," he said, his voice low and urgent, "your invention doesn't just offer hope. It disrupts the status quo. There are powerful interests who profit from scarcity, from controlling resources like clean water. They saw your win. They see your potential. And they'll do anything to stop you." The realization hit Malik with the force of a physical blow. He wasn't just fighting for respect anymore. He was fighting forces far bigger, more dangerous, and more insidious than a biased school principal. Staring at the image of his broken dream, a new fire ignited within him, hotter and fiercer than before. This wasn't just about proving them wrong. This was about survival. Amidst this newfound uncertainty, opportunity knocked again, this time louder and more dazzling than ever. Titan Tech, one of the country's largest technology firms, came calling. Cameras flashed, executives in expensive suits shook his hand, calling him inspiring. They offered a staggering contract. Mass production of his purifier, global distribution, a full ride to any university, a signing bonus that could instantly lift his family from poverty. His mother wept in the front row during the press conference, her face a portrait of disbelief and joy. Mr. Langston, Titan Tech's slick CEO, posed beside Malik, leaning in to whisper, "You're the future, kid. You're gonna change the world, and we're gonna help you do it." A tiny shiver of unease prickled Malik's skin, but he pushed it down. He'd earned this. The initial weeks at Titan Tech were intoxicating. Gleaming labs, robotic arms, glass-walled offices overlooking the city, it was a world away from his garage workbench. They assigned him a development team, promised unlimited funding, global reach. But soon the gloss began to fade. The tweaks to his design started. Just upgrades, they assured him, to enhance profitability. Suddenly, his elegantly simple low-cost purifier was being retrofitted with expensive, proprietary components only Titan Tech could manufacture. The production cost ballooned from dollars to hundreds. Malik protested. The whole point was to make it affordable. For poor communities. The executive smiled condescendingly, patted his shoulder. We know best, Malik. Trust the process. At an investor presentation, Malik watched in horror as Langston boasted not of saving lives, but of dominating emerging markets and unlocking billions in untapped revenue. Clean water for the needy wasn't mentioned. It was all about profit. Heart pounding with anger and betrayal, Malik confronted Langston afterwards. This isn't what I agreed to. You're destroying the purpose. Langston's smile vanished, replaced by a cold sneer. Grow up, Malik. This is the real world. We're offering you history. Or would you rather go back to being this stupid kid nobody listened to? The words struck deep, a cruel reminder of his past vulnerability. They hadn't seen his genius. They'd seen an asset, a brilliant idea attached to a naive kid they could easily exploit. The next day, a thick non-disclosure agreement landed on his desk, locking him into Titan Tech's control for a decade. Standard procedure, his advisor chirped. Just sign it. We're family now. Malik stared at the contract, his hands trembling. Sign and betray his dream for wealth. Refuse and face their wrath, be blacklisted, buried. That night, back in the small apartment where his journey began, the unsigned contract heavy in his backpack, his mother took his hand. Baby, she said softly, her eyes holding unwavering belief, don't ever sell yourself short. Don't ever let them tell you who you are. The next morning, Malik walked into Titan Tech headquarters, shoulders squared, resolve hardened. He marched into Langston's opulent office, tossed the unsigned contract onto the polished desk. I'm out. Langston's composure finally cracked. You'll regret this, he hissed, venom dripping from his voice. You'll never work in this industry again. Malik didn't flinch. Maybe, he replied, his voice steady. But at least I'll be able to look myself in the mirror. He walked out, leaving behind the promise of riches and the stench of corruption. But Titan Tech wasn't about to let him walk away clean. Within days, a vicious smear campaign began. Anonymous leaks painted Malik as a fraud, a thief who stole the purifier design. Media outlets that had lauded him now questioned his integrity. Sponsors vanished. Scholarship offers evaporated. The world that had briefly celebrated him now seemed eager to tear him down. Malik hit rock bottom, broke, humiliated, betrayed. The weight of the stupid label threatened to crush him once more. Just as despair threatened to consume him, a familiar hand reached out. Dr. Rhodes. I heard what happened, Rhodes said, his eyes filled with empathy and steel. They tried to destroy me too once. It's what they do when they can't control you. But if you're willing to fight, we can beat them. With Dr. Rhodes's guidance and seed funding, Malik fought back. Not with anger but with truth. They launched a crowdfunding campaign, sharing Malik's real story, video clips of him building the purifier from scrap, early interviews detailing his humanitarian dream, testimonials from old teachers who remembered his quiet passion. The narrative shifted. The public saw the smear campaign for what it was, a corporate giant trying to silence a young black innovator they couldn't bully. Donations poured in, small amounts from ordinary people, larger sums from engineers, activists, even celebrities inspired by his courage. Malik used every penny to launch his own company, TrueFlow Technologies. Its mission, exactly what Titan Tech had tried to corrupt, bringing affordable, accessible clean water to those in desperate need. Titan Tech sued, throwing their legal might at him, but the evidence of their exploitation was undeniable. The courts ruled in Malik's favor. Langston was forced to resign in disgrace. Malik didn't just survive, he thrived. TrueFlow purifiers began appearing in disaster zones, remote villages, underserved urban neighborhoods, places forgotten by profit-driven corporations. He wasn't chasing billions, he was chasing impact. He established scholarships for kids labeled different, funded makerspaces in low-income communities, visited schools, sharing his story. Don't ever let them define you, he'd tell the wide-eyed students. You define yourself. Victory tasted sweet, but the battle wasn't truly over. Just as Malik finally felt a measure of peace, his phone buzzed. An anonymous tip. A video file. Hands trembling slightly, he opened it. His blood ran cold. Secret footage from inside Titan Tech. A hidden lab. A new project codenamed Operation Throttle. They hadn't given up on his technology, they had perverted it. The video showed rows upon rows of purifiers, modified with remote control modules. They weren't planning to provide water, they were planning to control it, weaponizing access for profit and power, holding entire communities hostage. Malik stared at the screen, horror and fury warring within him. The fight wasn't over. It had just entered a terrifying new phase. He knew leaking the footage was dangerous. Titan Tech had already shown their ruthlessness. But the thought of his invention being twisted into a tool of oppression was unbearable. Working with Dr. Rhodes, they carefully vetted journalists, finding outlets known for integrity and courage. They released the Operation Throttle footage anonymously. Silence followed. Days turned into a week. Malik paced, sleepless, fearing Titan Tech had quashed it, fearing retribution. Then a spark. A small, independent news site published the story. Then a larger one. Within days the dam broke. Operation Throttle exploded across national news. Public outrage was swift and fierce. Protests erupted. "Water is a right," became a rallying cry. Congress announced hearings. Malik was called to testify. Days before the hearing, the warning came. A plain envelope containing only a photo of his mother's apartment building, circled ominously in red. No words needed. The threat was clear: silence or else. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced Malik's resolve. Could he risk his family? That night, in the familiar quiet of the kitchen, he showed his mother the photo. Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was firm. "Baby, they tried to break you before. Called you stupid, worthless. Look at you now. You're a light, Malik. The world needs your light. Don't you dare dim it for them now. Stand up." Her strength became his. The next morning, Malik walked into the congressional hearing room, the glare of cameras blinding, the weight of the nation's attention heavy on his shoulders. Across the room sat Titan Tech's remaining executives, stone-faced, flanked by lawyers. Malik raised his right hand, took the oath, and spoke. His voice, clear and unwavering, carried not just his story, but the echoes of every voice silenced, every dream dismissed. He detailed the exploitation, the lies, the threats, the horrifying plan to weaponize water. The world listened. The world believed. The fallout for Titan Tech was catastrophic. Stock prices plummeted. The Department of Justice launched a full-scale investigation. Arrests followed. The once untouchable executives were perp-walked before the same cameras that had once documented their arrogance. Malik watched it unfold, a complex wave of relief, vindication, and sorrow washing over him. This victory wasn't just his. It belonged to everyone who had ever been told to stay down. In the aftermath, TrueFlow technologies flourished. Partnerships with humanitarian groups and ethical governments bloomed. Malik's original purifier, simple, cheap, effective, reached communities across the globe. He wasn't just a CEO, he was an advocate, a symbol of resilience. One cool evening, Malik found himself standing in a field in Flint, Michigan, watching children laugh and splash in the clean water flowing from a TrueFlow community fountain. The sunset painted the sky in hues of hope. This was why he fought. A small boy, no older than 7, tugged his sleeve, clutching a battered notebook. "Are you Mr. Malik?" he asked shyly. "The one who made the water thingy?" Malik knelt. "Yeah, that's me." The boy beamed, revealing missing teeth. "When I grow up, I want to invent stuff too. People say I'm not smart enough, but I know I can." Malik's heart swelled. He gently tapped the boy's chest. "You already have everything you need right here, little man," he said softly. "Never let anybody tell you different." Watching the boy run back to his friends, clutching his notebook like a sacred text, Malik understood. They could call him stupid. They could try to bury him, steal from him, threaten him. But they could never extinguish the spark. Because the dream wasn't just his anymore. It lived in the heart of every kid who dared to imagine, to build, to defy the labels the world tried to impose. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning, rippling outwards, stronger with every life touched, every mind inspired. And Malik would be there, a testament to the enduring power of a different kind of genius. The end.